Greetings everybody and welcome to episode 5 of Sunday Design Rants. I am slicedlime. I've been a game developer for more than 10 years and this Sunday we're taking a look at a game that I can't seem to stop playing. Some games are instant love affairs. You start them up and it seems like you found the best thing ever. Sometimes it lasts, sometimes it doesn't, but either way it can be hard to identify why it is that you love the game so much. Coming up on 200 hours played, Rocket League is definitely one of the lasting ones for me. Game design is all about conveying emotion through interactivity, and the ever so elusive concept of fun more than anything else. If there was an easy recipe for making something fun, then making games would be easy. But making games is not easy because it can be incredibly hard to know from a theoretical point of view what is going to be fun and what isn't. But one thing that does help is to take something that is fun and identify why it is so much fun, which can also be pretty hard sometimes. This is going to be my attempt at doing just that though, with Rocket League. Some ideas that seem like the best thing ever on paper turn out to not work when you try them. Sometimes it's because some unforeseen problems and maybe you can tweak and fix things until it works. But sometimes it's just that your idea actually wasn't all that much fun to begin with, and sometimes it's even hard to tell those two situations apart. Let's hypothetically say that you made a game about scoring goals with a giant ball using rocket-powered cars, and you called it something generic and descriptive like Supersonic, Acrobatic, Rocket-Powered Battle Cars. And some people bought it, but generally it wasn't a success and it got kind of mediocre review scores. Many game development studios would have given up, just said, well, that wasn't a very good idea, and then moved on to trying to make another idea work. Well, this actually happened. The game was actually called Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars, which is probably the least sexy name I've ever seen for a video game. Psyonix even had a fair bit of trouble pitching Rocket League to publishers, so obviously no one really saw a potential for the game. Yet, it now has 8 million players. So what makes Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars different from Rocket League? Why is one a game that no one has ever heard of, and one a runaway success? There is, I think, a little difference in the level of polish between the games, which makes a lot more difference than you would think, honestly. But Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars is in many ways Rocket League. If you played it now and you've played Rocket League, you would feel right at home. Arguably, Rocket League is kind of a dumbed-down game, with all flat soccer-like pitches where Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars had complex game fields full of twists, elevated surfaces and even goals inside the field, like in ice hockey. I believe part of this comes down to how randomness is managed. The physics of both games is pretty much identical, and at first there seems to be an incredible amount of random chaos involved in Rocket League. But when you get into it, you start learning to control what seem to be random bounces and pull off the most amazing moves. I believe that relatively plain game fields contribute a whole lot to this. The way the ball handles on all of these fields is exactly the same. So learning to play Rocket League doesn't involve learning level geometry. And that's good, because learning to manage the car itself and how it interacts with the ball and other cars is hard enough. As players slowly conquer this learning curve, Psyonix are now introducing some of this complexity back into the game, with the Wasteland DLC introducing a field that isn't all flat. One core principle of game design is easy to learn, hard to master, and where Rocket League absolutely nails both of these, I think Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars might have made the process of learning far too hard. On a flat field, it's easy enough to knock a ball in somewhat the right direction using a car. Anyone can do that. Yet after hundreds of hours you will still not be a master of this art. There's always more to learn, and that's part of what makes it so appealing to always come back to Rocket League. Because I record a lot of my gaming, I have the opportunity to look back at old matches of Rocket League. It's always interesting to do so because I am always able to identify different ways in which I've improved my skill since then. Another factor that ties closely into this is matchmaking. Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars basically had none, which meant that you played opponents of wildly differing skill levels. Like pitching an amateur football player against Ronaldo, you're likely to be impressed by their skill but unlikely to learn much from the game. In the end, both games get a lot of things right, and maybe most of the factors of the success of one and the relative failure of the other come down to things other than game design. The name Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars is terrible and off-putting, and the game released only as a download for the PlayStation 3. Contrast that to Rocket League, which built up a huge audience by releasing for free to PlayStation Plus subscribers on the PlayStation 4. A platform, by the way, with built-in video sharing. But it's also available on Steam, which means that it's much easier for Rocket League footage to spread on social media. And these games produce an amazing amount of fantastic video clips. And let's get into those things, and there are a lot of things that these games get right. I've already talked about the constant feeling that there's always something to master despite the seemingly simple setup of the game. There's also the factor that games are rarely a terrible experience. Even in games you lose, there's often amazing moments where you almost do something incredible, and almost always hilarious moments with 6 cars flying in all directions, all missing the ball placed on a goal line. This means that while of course a losing streak is frustrating, most individual games still have a lot of fun things in them. Lots of small details contribute to this. The fact that the ball explodes when you score, even the fact that the particle cloud of the explosion actually spells out the letters boom, add to the playfulness of the game. All of this doesn't mean that games are without problems, of course. The ranking system for the first ranked season of Rocket League has had a whole lot of problems, and the matchmaking for ranked games still produces really poor results sometimes. The scoring model favors goals over saves by quite a margin, and in games with random players online, if you play defensively you almost always end up having a much better chance at winning the game, but almost always get a rubbish score, leading players to ignorantly yell at teammates for the very behavior that contributes the most to winning games. All in all though, Rocket League is a fantastic experience. In much of game development, ideas are the easy part. It's the implementation of making it into a game that is difficult. That is why game developers will laugh at you if you ever want into the industry because you have good ideas for games or want to be the idea person. These games, Supersonic, Acrobatic, rocket-powered battle cars and Rocket League, illustrate this almost perfectly. The idea of, what if you could play soccer using cars with jet engines, is a really cool one. But it's the thousands of small design decisions made going from that idea into something players can actually play that separates a great game and a runaway success from a game that almost no one heard of. So if you haven't played Rocket League, what are you doing? Go play Rocket League. And once you have, I'd love to hear your opinions about it and about this rant. Leave a comment down below on the video. My name is slicedlime, thank you for listening. I'll see you again next Sunday in another rant, or in another video. Bye bye.